I don't know if you knew this or not, but my Ames inverter charger, it's a 3000 watt pure sine wave inverter charger. You know the big long blue one that's heavy, about 50 pounds because of that transformer and stuff. I looked over the circuit, I looked over the power board. It's the board that's underneath the control board. The control board at the top, power board is at the bottom, and screwed to the actual metal casing of the inverter. And then it also has the negative and positive inputs for the battery, and then it has the output to the transformer. So this inverter charger, okay, it will take, I believe it will take 10 volts to 15 volts input, and it will output 120. No, it like in reality, it actually outputs 8 volts AC, okay, and the MOSFETs do their thing at 60 cycles a second, okay, or whatever that the control board is telling them to do. And it also acts as a battery charger when it's plugged in to main power or shore power, okay. So 6 of the MOSFETs are bad. I tested them. I looked up data sheets. I looked up ways how to test N as a Nancy MOSFETs, N channel MOSFETs, and they're all bad. Just the ones on the one heat sink are bad, okay? All the rest are good. The positive ones on the positive heat sink, it's all one block of positive, is all good. But there's 2 blocks on the negative rail, okay? And just that particular one is bad. They're all bad. They're all shorted, internally. So, and they're 3-legged MOSFETs. You got your source, your drain, and your gate, and they're all shorted, internally. So I did it with continuity and with a diode check feature on the multimeter, and this multimeter is a true RMS meter. Okay, so right now I'm driving to Micro Center because they have 4 NTK or NTE N channel 60 volt rated 38 amp MOSFETs. I'm going to get those 4, come back to Rockville and get the 3, and then I called up a friend of mine who dabbles with electronics. His name is Tom. He's a really good person. Known him for a long time now, and I'm going to invite him to come over to the apartment to help me solder, to help me desolder, the shorted out ones, solder in the new ones, and fix up the burnt traces on the negative ground plane of the board. The 3rd pin connects to the ground, and the middle pin connects to the heat sink, and the other pin connects to the it connects to little resistors and the little micro capacitors, say 2002 or 2000 on them, little black things. So they're surface mount, they're what SMDs, and I hate this bridge right here. So yeah, I'll try to make a live video of us doing the job. I may not, just because I'm in such a hurry to get the thing working, and I'll need to load test it and make sure that I can handle a good sized load. I'll probably put like a heater on it or something, and hopefully it can handle the load pretty well. And if it does and it works, I'll just run with that. I don't have to go buy another inverter charger Friday or Saturday, Friday night, Saturday morning. Even though I really like the Xantrex XC inverter charger model, it's a good high frequency inverter charger, so it doesn't have any weight to it. It's lightweight. The guy will take $330 for it. But however, if I only have to spend less than $50 in parts, and and also I get to see my friend for a little bit, hey, then that was worth it, So, because I don't want to overdraft my bank account, and that's what I have. And that's what I did. I got the cash right now to go buy that. So I thought the guy was going to let me come up and buy the inverter today, but turns out no. The guy's busy until the weekend, and he's going to be at that location in Pennsylvania, because right now he's in Philadelphia. He's not going to be up in Benson, you know. So I'm getting this weird like clicking, rattling noise whenever everything is hot and it's at a certain RPM range. It makes this rattling click noise. And I'm thinking the flex plate could be tickling the starter bendix, just touching it, and you know, because the flex plate is flexing just a little bit and it's hitting the bendix, but only at that RPM range. I need a somebody told me about there's a transmission bell housing inspection cover I can actually take off, not that little plug at the bottom. I can take off a panel, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the starter out and inspect the teeth on it, inspect the bendix, and if it's shiny on the tips, yeah, it could mean that it was engaging the the flywheel flex plate, and but then again, if it looks really shiny, like brand spanking new shiny, then I know they're definitely hitting each other just a little bit, and I could readjust it just a bit, you know, because I couldn't get the third bolt in there. It was a stud, and I couldn't get it in there. I think it actually dropped out somewhere and it rolled and I couldn't find it. So I just said, fuck it, I'm putting 2 bolts in, and it could have just kind of twisted itself a little bit. You know, it's 2 bolts holding it in, it could have twisted a little bit, and now it's hitting the flex plate, you know, at a certain RPM range. I don't know. I put in higher octane fuel last night and some octane booster, you know. So 4 gallons of 93 and some octane booster. I don't know. I mean, but yeah. So now in a traffic jam, just because, you know, it's the rush hour. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to Micro Center in Fairfax, Virginia. I'm going to pick up the NTE or whatever, NTK MOSFETs, and I'll see what kind of soldering kits that they have. If they have a decent soldering kit, something basic, you know, with the with the desolder braid and the non-acid core solder, you know, with more, trying to think, it probably would need to be more lead in the solder maybe, or something, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I mean, I just want to have a good soldering kit available. I may not use it very much, but you know. And then also my friend has a soldering kit too, and that acts with a magnifier and something, that way, you know, he can oh yeah, and I got some solid, I may have some solid Romex wire too, like 14 gauge. He said that we could take wire, some solid copper wire, and just cut it, just hammer it, cut it to so a tiny bit, and solder it into the PCB in order to beef up that burnt up trace. And I'll also need like an exact one, like to scrape off the conformal coating on the bottom of the power board PCB. So I'm gonna do some electronics repair. Never really did it before, but watching a lot of YouTube videos about it, I understand it 100%. It's just never got my hands on it. So I gotta learn at some point, right? Because society is a throwaway society, and I'm not like that. I don't believe in throwing things away or spending crazy amounts of money to just go buy new. If I could fix it and I get it to work, then why not, right? I may even look for relays too. I got pictures of the relays on the relay / control board too, and that board's $135 plus $15 shipping. The power board from Ames is $400 straight up, and I imagine shipping is an extra $15-20, so around $420 to get a new power board for that specific model inverter charger. And it's like, for $400 I can buy a brand new inverter charger off of somebody on Facebook, you know. So, but then I'll be left with no money. Right now I have a Magnum modified sine wave underneath the bed that I'm using right now for power, but I don't really like it. It doesn't do the AVR function. And it's modified sine wave, so you know, motors will hum, things like that. It does run AC though. It runs a wheel unit fine. It runs a water heater, but running the water heater too, the you know, the output voltage when you're on an inverter kind of drops out from time to time. I was measuring it, plus or minus 10 to 15%. So. And it can hold a really good load, you know, up to 2,500 watts at least. So let's say 18 amps, you know, be what, 22 amps out at like 120. Yeah, so if you can handle that, you know, that'd be great. And then basically also, and this will also prove that Ames uses, they don't make it themselves. I believe it's Signier or it's Signier that actually makes the boards, and or some firm out in China or something like that. Because I think it's made in China, right? They just don't use the best manufacturing processes and techniques for building these boards out, and they're only designed to last so long. It's basically plant obsolescence, you know. But also, as you guys saw in that live video, I had the two wires not in the right place. But guess what? One or two of the MOSFETs already was gone anyways. So 4 of them was taking up the load the entire time. Okay? And that means that you're putting more amperage, DC amperage, you know, through those 4 MOSFETs. And they're not designed for that. That's why they have it 6 MOSFETs. No? I don't know what that was about. I didn't do anything. This fucking steering wheel holder here. TMC Trucking 12589 is a truck number on the sleeper door. It doesn't have a DOT number on the side of the, oh, it says Des Plaines though. Oh, no, it's actually Des Moines, sorry. I thought it was this. The words are so tiny on the side of the door there. Anyways, so yeah, by having those 2 hot wires crossed, just did it in. It just was like a huge sudden surge. I hope the transformer's okay. I really do. I should have tested that prior to leaving, but you know, I just don't know if the transformer is supposed to test as a continuous, you know, you put continuity, if it's supposed to beep or not. I forgot which one it was. So, but Tom would know more about that. So, he, I guess he's designed some circuits in the past. There's even this really cool circuit they built from a bicycle wheel. It's called the Bandini wheel, and it basically makes its own power, but it also provides its own motion at the same time. So it's providing power and making its own, and providing the motion to make its own power. But you still need to have a battery in the circuit. But it'll charge the battery though. You'll charge it. It's, you know, and the battery is to basically just be there in the circuit. But you basically kick it off by taking your finger and just flicking the wheel real hard, you know, and it just keeps spinning. And once the bearings or something, or you know, in the bicycle wheel hover going dry, and then you have more friction, and it'll slow it down, you know. But if you got good bearings and stuff like that, yeah, it'll actually spin for a long time. It'll stop eventually. I just don't know how long, but I've seen it work. Just didn't get to play with it, you know. So he actually made something like that, and he's made like an HHO, you know, machine for a lawnmower or generator, and designed a few. You know, yeah, he's a pretty smart guy, you know. Let's see who, damn. I don't know, somebody messaged me though. I just can't, I obviously can't read it right now, so. And I'm wearing gloves because of my hands. I'm not afraid of catching anything, it's just my hands get dried out and the skin cracks open a little bit. It basically gets like these like paper-like cuts, you know, like paper cuts. They get on my knuckles, like on the knuckles and in between and everything, and in between my fingers here. And it hurts, it stings. Like, it feels like it's razor blades going across my hands in those spots. Like someone took a razor blade and sliced it open, you know? You know, like a cat scratch razor blade kind of deal. Yeah, so that's why I wear the gloves. It keeps my hands a little sweaty. It keeps the air from getting to it, drying it out, and making it sting, you know? So. Somebody's smoking real bad back there. I mean, I could see it. It was like bluish white smoke coming from some vehicle. I was like, damn, they're really burning oil. This guy got a camera on top of his helmet. I could see something like a little protrusion from his helmet there. I mean, it's kind of a smart idea, though. So yeah, I was thinking in order to load test the inverter once we do the repairs and they look okay, and you know everything physically checks out right, then I'll hook it up to I got some batteries underneath my coffee table. That's for my UPS. That's on the coffee table. I can just put them back in parallel because right now they're in series. They make 24 volt for the UPS, and we'll put them in parallel. They're 55 amp. They're pretty old though, so they're probably not going to be able to pack a good punch, you know. But we'll. I got a couple of little heaters that put out 200. That are 200 watts at 120, right? So it's 2 amps. So I could plug in the both on the plug on the inverter itself. That'll be about 4 or 5 amps, right? But on the DC side, that should be anywhere from 38 amps to 58, 60 amps, okay, on the DC side. And that's going to pull, and of course, a lot of the amperage is going to go through the new MOSFET setup then, and we're going to see what happens. So, not a bad idea. We're going to kind of break them in very slowly. I'll use one heater and then probably do that for about 15-20 minutes, plug in the second heater or just flip the switch on it and increase the the amp draw on the DC side, and we'll see what the MOSFETs do. And I got a temperature thing for my multimeter, so maybe I could put it in the middle of the heat sink, just above the MOSFET mounts, and yeah, we'll see what happens. You know, we'll see what the temperatures are, and if they're satisfactory and everything. Because heat is a killer. What's wrong? Big time, major killer. So, because like I said, I inspected the board. It looks pretty decent. It's just burnt right at the third legs of each MOSFET. That's on the negative ground plane of the board, and there's capacitors in between the negative and positive side of those positive and negative planes on the inner side of the PCB. So I believe those capacitors are basically active whenever 12 volts is connected to the inverter's input terminals. You know what I mean? Or output, you know, whatever you want to call it. I guess they're there to smooth out the spikes in the DC current or DC voltage. So when there's like heavy loads put on the inverter, there's spikes that the DC current will spike up and down it, and it helps to smooth those out. And that's what those caps are for. I forgot what they're rated at. But there's 4 caps on the board. There's a video up on YouTube, and it shows a power board that has 3 caps, but there's a spot where you can populate a 4th, and that's what the guy did. He put a 4th one on there because he figured, why not, right? If you can do it, then why not? Use the same rated cap, solder it in, call it a day, you know. Oh yeah, I'm hoping that Tom has some little micro cutters too. You know, like little tiny cutters. You know, to cut the excess leg off the MOSFET. Because I don't want to cut the legs until they're fully, inserted, mounted to the heatsink, soldered in, and then cut the excess, and then just cut the tail off. You know, close to the solder hump, or whatever you like to call it. You know, the glob of solder. Cut it as close to that as possible. And then what I may do is I may try to locate some plastic or something and put it. Well, no, because there's actually standoffs in the case has built-in standoffs for the power board, so that way the bottom side of the power board doesn't touch the inverter case. So I think the gap is a 1/4 inch gap. I know it's less than 1/2 inch, and it's about a 1/4 inch gap between the bottom of the PCB and the inverter case. So one for the airflow, and 2 to keep it from shorting out against the case and things like that. You know, causing major issues. You know, so. I'll flip it around so you guys can watch the actual. So now I'm on the Virginia side of the Beltway. As you know, traffic's going to be really bad going back in to Maryland, but hey, this is the only way to source. This is the only way to source these components physically, locally, and get it done today. This is the only way I can do it. I can't do it no other way. I can obviously, place the order through an eBay or Mauser or some other one, maybe even, or I don't know, maybe I could ask my dad or something. Maybe he knows somebody at Plexus, that I could buy them from, and then they could send them. But yeah, like I said, I may actually get spares though, like in the near future. I may buy like 20 of those MOSFETs or something like that, or 30 of them, just for safekeeping, So that way, if anything happens, then I got some spare MOSFETs on hand to do the repair again. So I just hope that the power, that the relay board is still good, because it's a control relay board. It actually has a microprocessor on it that controls all the functions of the inverter. It's a little tiny one too, though, but it has a big job to do. It has to monitor the heat sink temperature. I believe it monitors. There may be some temperature sensors by the MOSFETs. I believe it has to monitor the voltages. You know, things like that. So it has to know when to speed up the main fan. There's only one main cooling fan in between the battery terminals that come into it. So it's like right in between and just below the terminals, or the posts. And the posts take 13 millimeter. I think they're the M8 variety. So the 13 millimeter hex nuts. The 6-pointed nuts. And the reason why they're doing 13 millimeter because the torque on it is pretty. You got to get a pretty decent torque on it in order to secure the battery cables as tight as you can get them. For the optimal connection. So, and I'm using 2-aught cables above from Harbor Freight. They're the 3-foot ones. Steering stuff. I need to see where the bushings are. Maybe get them replaced or something too. Because my steering wheel is pretty clunky when it hit bumps and stuff. You know what I mean? I need to get that looked at too. I mean, not looked at, but I need to look it over and see if there's any bushings or any looseness. I'm gonna probably have to jack it up and put it on jack stands, and then that way I can take the strain off the I can take the preload off the suspension and stuff, and that way I can grab it, stuff, and shake it and wiggle it and things like that, and just see what's loose, Because when you have the vehicle on the ground, it's obviously suspension's like loaded up, and I gotta take this call.